guys, I'm Paige, and today I'm going to be explaining to you all of the Descendants universe lore, minus the books, because I don't have them. You might be like, why are you making this video? Listen, okay? We all know that the new movie is coming out today, actually, as this video is out. Of course, I gotta explain all of the lore, plus it gave me an excuse to watch all of the movies and refresh my brain on everything that happened, because obviously the last movie came out in 2019. I don't remember anything that happened in these movies. You know, it's like Stranger Things where you forget everything because it takes 5 years for a new season to come out. Okay, there are a lot of parts to this lore and a lot of things that you need to know beforehand. Everything that is released is in kind of a timeline order, so I'm going in the order of when everything was released. Okay, here is your timeline made by yours truly. 2015, the first Descendants movie came out. That same year, Disney released Wicked World. 2017, Descendants 2 was released, and in 2018, during the wait period between Descendants 2 and 3, Disney released Under the Sea. Then, finally, 2019, Descendants 3 was released, and most people think it stopped there, but actually, in 2021, they released The Royal Wedding. A lot of people don't know that. And of course, they're releasing a new movie today. The Rise of Red, I think it's called. I didn't really know how to do this. If you wanted every little detail, you would just watch the movie. So I'm giving short recaps and explaining background information you learn, the characters that you learn about, the lore that you learn, whatever. So now you don't have to go back and watch all of them like I did, like I spent my last 2 days doing. Without further ado, let's get into this lore because I can't wait any longer. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that all of the good guys, so the princes and princesses, they live on an island called Oridon. The king and queen of this island are Belle and Beast, you know, from like Beauty and the Beast. All of the villain kids, or the VKs, live on a separate island that they got banished to called the Isle of the Lost, or the Isle. On this island, they have no access to anything, like no Wi-Fi, they barely have access to TV, like they have nothing on this island. They also have this magical barrier separating them from the good guys and the bad guys. So the good guys stay in Oridon and the bad guys stay on the Isle. Okay, there are a lot of characters introduced because it's the first movie, so bear with me. Okay, you have Cruella de Vil and her son Carlos. You have Jafar and his son Jay. You have the Evil Queen and her daughter Evie, and you have Maleficent and her daughter Mal. Those are all of the VKs that are introduced in the movie. The VKs and their parents. Then you have Belle and Beast and their son Ben. The daughter of Sleeping Beauty, her name is Audrey. The son of the dwarf Dopey, his name is Doug. You have the fairy godmother and her daughter, Jane. Then you also have the daughter of Mulan. Her name is Lonnie. You have the son of Cinderella. His name is Chad. And finally, you have this dog named Dude. Okay, very important things you need to know before we get into the plot of this movie. Ben and Audrey are dating. Mal and Audrey, because of the whole Maleficent Aurora thing, they have beef. Very important theme in this whole thing, you know, is that all of the villains, they just don't like their kids. They don't like their kid. There's this whole thing where like, oh, but she's my mom. She loves me. No, she doesn't. Maleficent named her daughter Mal. Mal is the first 3 letters of Maleficent. These villains, they literally just want their kids to be just like them, especially Maleficent. Maleficent says like a million times that she wants Mal to be like her. Anyways, let's get into this plot. Okay, kind of the whole plot of this movie is that Ben is becoming king. So he, as his first order before he becomes king, he wants to let some of the kids from the Isle have a chance at becoming good. So he chooses Carlos, Mal, Evie, and Jay. And these kids, they're the kids of the like worst villains on the island. Especially Maleficent. Maleficent is seen as like the worst villain on the island. So then the whole thing is they have a barrier around them. This barrier keeps them from doing any of their magic. Like none of their magic works, none of their spells work, nothing works on this island. So Maleficent wants Mal to break them all free from the Isle, from the barrier, with the fairy godmother's magic wand. The whole movie is the VKs trying to get this magic wand, but they get distracted like a lot because of their side plots and stuff, and I'll get into that. Evie, she is looking for a prince to marry, okay? She wants a prince so bad, but then she, like throughout the movie, she kind of realizes, hey, I'm actually really smart and I don't need a man. You know, you don't need to be acting stupid just for a man. Jay, he joins a sports team and he becomes like their best player. Mal gets Ben to fall in love with her with this like a love potion, and then she learns he already knew that he was under a spell and he like was just actually in love with her. And Carlos's whole plot line, listen, it's him getting a dog. Like, he has no other plot line in this movie. They mention multiple times that he's like terrified of dogs because his mom, Cruella de Vil, told him that dogs like will eat his face off if they come near him. But then he gets this dog dude. It's really sweet, honestly. It's really sweet. Anyways, by the end of the movie, the kids realize that they don't want to be like their parents. They don't want to be evil like their parents. They want to be good. The movie ends with Jane grabbing Fairy Godmother's magic wand because she wants to be beautiful. So she takes Fairy Godmother's wand and she just grabs it and she starts shooting everywhere, and then all of a sudden the barrier opens up because she shot like into the sky and at the barrier. So the barrier opens up, Maleficent comes out, her and Mal fight. Maleficent, she was the size of a dragon fighting her daughter. She shrinks down to the size of a lizard. And the fairy godmother explains it's because that's like the size of the amount of love in her heart. While the ending wasn't super great with how rushed it felt after watching this movie for 2 hours, I will say it was pretty wicked. You remember how Disney Channel used to have, they weren't exactly commercials, they were like short stories in between the commercials, such as like Nina Needs to Go. Like, that was also one of the short stories. That's what Wicked World was. Wicked World has no lore whatsoever. It's just like little short stories of like what's happening to these characters. You know, it's not important. I was really looking forward to watching it because I was like, oh, there's a TV show too. No. But there is one thing I can take away from this, and it's that there's so many ways to be wicked. What's my name? What's my name? Okay, a few things you need to know for this movie are that Doug and Evie are together now. Basically, Carlos was trying to get Jane, like, to try to ask her out, and so he was like, Mal, can you give me a spell so that I can, like, tell her how I really feel? And she was like, yeah, I'll make it. And then the dog dude ate it, and now he can talk. Mal and a new character that you'll meet in a minute had a falling out. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, because I did have one of the books for a little while, and then I think I gave it away to my cousin, and she probably threw it away. But that's not the point. I think Mal and Uma used to be friends. Then they had some sort of falling out because Mal was like, hey, I'm now friends with Jay, Carlos, and Evie. They're my gang. And Uma was like, hey, can I join your gang? And she was like, no, Shrimpy, you can't. And then they had like long term beef. Obviously, there are some new characters, Uma, who I mentioned earlier, she's Ursula's daughter. There's also Captain Hook's son, Harry Hook. Gaston's son, his name is Gil. Lastly, one of Cinderella's stepsisters, she has a daughter. The daughter's name is Dizzy. She doesn't raise Dizzy. The evil stepmother from the movie, she raises Dizzy, so she's like an evil step grandmother. The whole plot of this movie is that Mal is kind of struggling with Oradon life, and so she decides that she can't take it anymore, and she just decides to go back to the Isle. Then all of the VKs and Ben go to the Isle to get her back, but when they're there, Ben gets kidnapped by Uma. They get Ben back. They're escaping. They're going back to Oradon. Mal leaves her spellbook by accident. Uma takes the spellbook to put a spell on Ben to make him fall in love with her. It's like a whole ordeal, and then Mal is like, no, you love me, remember, you love me, da 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 da. She kisses him because true love's kiss, blah blah blah, it like ends everything. Mal turns into a dragon to fight Uma, and Uma turns into this giant squid like Ursula in the Little Mermaid movie, and they fight, and then Ben jumps in and he's like, no, Uma, I know you, this isn't right, this isn't you. And then Uma just like ducks under the water and swims away. The movie ends with Evie talking about how there are so many kids that would love to come to Oradon. Of course, there were a lot of subplots throughout the movie. Carlos trying to get with Jane, and they end up going to this ball called the Royal Cotillion together, so that's really cute. Evie makes a bunch of dresses for the Royal Cotillion, and she makes so much money that in the next movie she has a mini castle. Jay also has a subplot with Mulan's daughter Lonnie. You kind of think that they're gonna get together. They don't. Don't be fooled. I think he's the only one that's a loner, which is really sad. I don't know what happened. I think the actress of Lonnie must have like stopped being in the films. I can feel it. Jay and Lonnie were supposed to be endgame. They weren't, because she wasn't even in the third movie. Okay, it turns out there was something to do with conflicting schedules, so her and Jay were supposed to be endgame, but because of the conflicting schedules, she couldn't be in the third movie. Fun fact, Dove Cameron, the girl that plays Mal, in two separate interviews, she was talking about Mal and Evie, okay? In one of the interviews, she said,
Like, for sure, she was also madly in love with Evie. Mal and I, same, baby.
And then she also said in a different interview,
but also space between. It's so gay. That's a love song for Evie and Mal, for sure. I'm confirming it.
I really wish they had added Ariel's daughter into the movie. I think the reason they didn't is because like she canonically has a daughter like in second animated movie. A lot of people don't know that, but she does. But it would have been nice because the Ben, son of Beauty and the Beast, he sings a remastered Be Our Guest. And I think it would have been really cool if they did the same thing with Under the Sea. Okay, I'm gonna be so for real with you. This whole thing is basically one long music video. It's 11 minutes long, and in this music video, essentially, Uma and Mal sing "Stronger" by Kelly Clarkson. It is also sort of a teaser for the third movie. If they didn't work for Disney, these movies could be so much more powerful. I'm telling you. There's this part in it where Mal is talking to Dizzy in the middle of the woods, and she's like, "Oh, I saw this blue glowing orb, and it was saying my name." That's important for the third movie. You can kind of assume that this takes place sometime during the second movie, probably, because she looks exactly like she did in the second movie. Uma kind of talks to Mal, sort of, and Uma is basically like, I'm coming for you, like, count your days, kind of thing. But honestly, that's all. It's teasing the final movie. Okay, some things that you need to know for this movie. Ben is letting more VKs into Ordon, okay? Jane and Carlos are together, of course. Audrey, her grandmother, and Chad all hate the idea that more VKs are coming. They still don't like the idea. Audrey's grandma is basically like, we should only be opening that to put people in, not take people out. And Audrey and her grandma still firmly believed that Audrey was going to become queen, even though Ben was with Mal. And then Ben proposes to Mal, and Audrey is not happy about it. Let me tell you, she's not. You're gonna find out how just not happy she was. And also, Hades, like the god of the underworld, is Mal's dad. And if you've read Percy Jackson, that's all I'm gonna say. There are some new characters. They don't really matter. So there's the sons of Smee. I didn't know who Smee was. I had to look it up, and then I kept forgetting who he was, and I kept having to look it up. But his sons, Squirmy and Squeaky, Dr. Facilier, and his daughter Celia, and then of course Hades. The plot is that Audrey turns evil because she's so upset that she can't be the queen and that Ben chose Mal over her. She's like, "You want a VK to be your queen? Seriously?" And then she's like, "Okay, everybody wants like a villain to be their queen. I'll turn into a villain so then I can be the queen." And she takes Maleficent's scepter. She's starting to like cast spells upon everybody. Like Mal, she turns into this evil little witch. Mal is like, okay, the only thing that can beat this is Hades' Ember, the blue glowing orb from earlier. So she's like, yeah, the only thing that's gonna be able to beat this is Hades' Ember. Like, there's nothing else that's stronger than this. So they all have to sneak back onto the Isle. Meanwhile, Audrey is putting everyone to sleep with the scepter, and she's also turning some people to stone. Like, it's insane. And then, while everybody's sneaking back into Ordon, Harry and Gil come out of nowhere. They sneak through the force field, and then Uma comes out of the water. She's been in the water this whole time. She comes out of the water. She takes the ember, and she's like, these people have been hiding so much from us. They've been keeping this all to themselves. She's like, okay, if you want me to give you this ember back, you have to promise that you're going to let all of the kids from the Isle free and into Ordon. And then Mal's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Turns out Mal had basically been planning to shut down the whole program of bringing kids out of the Isle and into Ordon because of Hades trying to escape in like the very beginning of the movie. So he was trying to escape and it scared everybody. And so she was like, okay, you know what? We can't keep opening up this thing. And everybody thinks that it was like everybody else's idea and that she's standing up for the VKs. Then they have to keep looking for Audrey. And then at some point, Mal tells everybody, like, hey, I'm not standing up for you guys. It was my idea to close this place. And everybody gets super mad. Celia's like, you told me I could go see my dad whenever I want. And then she takes the ember out of Mal's hand and drops it into water, which makes it lose all of its powers. Audrey is holding Celia hostage. So Mal is like, okay, I need to go save you. They get the magic back into the ember, and then they fight Audrey. She gets put to sleep, and then Hades has to come out, save her. The movie ends with Mal taking down the barrier around the Isle and opening up the bridge between the Isle and Ordon. And then, of course, there are some subplots. All of the VK. So obviously, Jay, Carlos, Evie, and Mal hate, like, they just don't like Uma, Harry, and Gil, and vice versa. So they, throughout the movie, they kind of like learn to work together and everything. I was trying to think of a good segue for this next part, but there isn't one. So I'm just gonna get into it. If I'm going to talk about Descendants, I have to talk about the unfortunate death of Cameron Boyce. He passed away before the premiere of Descendants 3 in his sleep from a seizure at just 20 years old. The rest of the cast didn't feel right filming the fourth movie without him, understandably so. So all of production on that movie was stopped. And I personally think the movie ended on like a really good spot. Like there wasn't really much of the story to tell anymore. The only thing the fans were missing out on was a royal wedding. Or are they? 2 years later, Disney gives their fans the only thing that they had been missing from a fourth movie, and that was the royal wedding between Mal and Ben. They make a short animated story about it. It's like 23 minutes, I think. Let me explain to you the plot of this. So they're all getting ready for their wedding, and Hades walks in because, you know, he's Mal's dad, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna try to do my best. Then Maleficent, she's still a lizard in this animated version. She's run away. So then Dude is chasing after her. Hades tries to get her and do something good, and then Dude bites him in the butt, and then he sets everything on fire with his hair. That's kind of all. That's kind of what happens. Then they get married, and it's really cute. I kind of skipped through it because there wasn't. I mean, they started singing, and I was like, dude, like, come on now. They don't explain why Carlos is gone, but they just kind of are like, yeah, I really wish he was here. They also give a crazy hint to the new movie. Like, it's been 3 years since the royal wedding came out. The fact that they hinted to it 3 years ago, like, they knew they were going to make this movie. I'm assuming that the reason it took 3 years was because obviously there's always been like a 2 year time frame between the movies coming out. But I think what took so long this time is the casting. Because obviously, none of the original cast really wants to be in this movie. I think Uma's in it. I think Hades is also in it, but that's kind of it. Everybody else is new. So they had to recast, like they had to get a whole new cast. So I think that's what took so long. But that's besides the point. They give a crazy like thing for the new movie. There's red paint going down a rabbit hole. And if you don't know the premise of the new movie, basically it involves like the Queen of Hearts and a young version of the Queen of Hearts and her daughter. I really hope you enjoyed this recap because I've had a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to be watching the new movie as soon as it comes out, and I hope if you're watching this that you're also going to be watching it or you already have watched it. I don't know. Who knows? If you like this video, please go down and press the like button. If you like my personality, maybe consider subscribing. And if you really like me that much, press the bell button so you don't miss any more of my videos. And I will see you guys later. Bye.